Hey, Algebra 1. We're going to work with some linear functions today, and we're actually going to start with my favorite. You guys have some background in slope-intercept form, right? Y equals mx plus b, right? That was 8th grade. You got drilled with those. And that's what this one is about, right? Because we're going to talk about those. But our focus today is going to be point-slope form, and we'll get to that in just a second here. Let's read through this big old problem. Linear functions model many real-world phenomena. All right, a simple example would be the following, right? So if you work at the local diner, you have a fixed rate, right? You get $20 for an 8-hour shift. Well, that's not going to change. So that's going to be my y-intercept. So if I go in to waiter or waitress, I get $20 to stay there for 8 hours. The rest of the income comes from tips, right? So you got to make sure, especially right now, COVID-19 out there, if you're going to go out and order some food and stuff, you got to make sure you take care of those people. So here we have, after 6 months, you figured out that your average tip income is $10 an hour. Okay, so that means that's per hour. So that should be tied in to an X here, where X represents the hours, Y is the income. All right, so thus for the 8-hour day, you can expect to earn 10 times 8 plus 20. All right, so that's 80. That's $100 to work 8 hours. All right, so here's the deal. It's now maybe, let's say you're 4 hours into the shift, right? So 10 times 4 plus 20, so that's 40. Right, so if you don't have $40 worth of tips, right, this is how we can use that equation to find out. You say, hey, I'm gonna need a couple more tables, or they need to advertise more, or whatever the case is. um, you can kind of see how you're doing and make a prediction about what else needs to happen. All right, so that's slope-intercept form. We're going to get into that a little bit today, but I really want to focus on point-slope form because it is one of my favorites, and honestly, it is the easiest one there. Okay, there's a couple things you have to remember about point-slope form. You need a point and a slope, right? Remember, m is the slope, so we have that going on here. The x value is going to go with the x. The y value is going to go with the y. And what you want to notice here is both of these points right now are positive, but in the equation, it's minus. Right? So everything's going to be opposite. And you're used to that because this basically is derived from your slope equation, right? We had slope y minus y over x minus x. So if I took this thing and I cross multiplied, what? That would be point slope form, all right? So it's an easy way to remember the equation itself. All right, so we could go through and label everything. Like I'll start with the things I know. All right, that's a slope. Let's see, this is an x value, what they call it, an x coordinate. This must be a y coordinate. All right, and the other ones, they come from, right, dependent variable and independent variable. So this will help out with science class. And what that means is independent variable, that's going to be your x term here. So it's independent and then dependent. Okay, things that are independent are like time, right? So over time, something might happen. And what's this whole thing called? This whole thing called point slope form. Point slope. Why? Because I can find a point, an x and y coordinate, and the slope really, really, really easy. All right, so you're used to slope-intercept form. We're going to find we're going to start with the y-intercept and then apply the slope. We're going to use the same idea here, except it's not a y-intercept. We're going to start with the point and then apply the slope. And then standard form, this is where we're going to find x and y intercepts. And we're going to get into that, but it's not too soon to show it to you. All right, so we just want to write this one in point slope form. So y minus the y value equals m x minus the x value. All right, so x value is -1. So I have x minus -1. We don't do that anymore, right? We're in high school now. So that's +1. The slope was -3 in front of that. And we had y minus the y value is 5. It's not double signed, so I don't have to do anything to it. All right, here's what it looks like on the side here. So what I would do is I would start by plotting this point. Right? -1, -5, left 1, up 5, and then go down 1, 2, 3. Boom, there it is. And it actually gives me a y-intercept as well. So we could get there if we need to. We're going to work on that in just a minute to rearrange them. All right, so here's the only catch is we can do this really, really easy to turn this into slope-intercept form. So we're going to show you how to do that. If I have 2 points, so we need to review how to find the slope. So we're going to need that. So I'm going to start with -5 minus 5. If I start with -5, I got to start with 6. So 6 minus -4, so I'm going to make it +4. Right, so we get negative 10 over 10. The slope of the line is negative 1. All right, so in this task, what I have to do is I need to then pick one of these ordered pairs. Now I'm going to go with the first one. So I have y minus 5. The slope was negative 1. And I have x minus negative 4. We're not going to do that. Right? This is plus 4. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to get this into slope-intercept form so I can find out what the b value is. So here's all you have to do, guys. And this is why I like this form so much. We don't have to rewrite anything when we're done. We're going to distribute the negative 1. So here's what it looks like. Y minus 5, negative 1x minus 4. Right? And in slope-intercept form, y has to be by itself. So how do we get rid of minus 5? You add 5. So I'd end up with y equals negative 1x plus 1. Pretty slick, huh? So as long as I can write it in point slope form, I know you can use the distributive property, and I know you can add or subtract whatever value needs moved away from y to finish this thing out. I'm not solving for b and then rewriting anything. So that's why I like it. And that's why you're going to like it too. Yeah, we'll see. All right, so this one, again, is probably a little bit earlier. Can I tell what the slope is if it's in point slope form? Well, yeah. Can I tell what the slope is if it's in slope-intercept form? Yeah. Can I tell what the slope is if it's in standard form? No. All right, is the y-intercept easily identifiable? In point slope form? No. In slope-intercept form? Yes. In standard form, the y-intercept? Yeah, it's going to be. Is it convenient for graphing? Yes, yes, and yes. All right, and that's what we're going to learn about in chapter 5 here, is all the different ways that we can do this. All right, we're going to write the equation of the line. So first thing is, let's find out what in the world the slope is. And remember, you have a picture of it, so there is no need to use a formula. So I'm going to go up 2. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Right, so I'm going to go up 2. And I'm going to go over 3. And I have an ordered pair right here. I could use the other one, but it wasn't labeled for me, so why would I do that? So 2, 5. So y minus the y value is 5. 2/3 x minus the x value, which is 2. All right, so the biggest thing here, I think it's kind of a brain trick, is you have to make sure that y goes with y. Sometimes I'll see students that want to do these left to right, and they'll flip-flop the 2 and the 5 in the equation. So just be careful with that as we work on it. All right, next one, we're going to find a slope here. So first I'm going to draw myself a right triangle. That way I can count these relatively easy. All right, so it looks like I'm going down 8. I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my goodness, there should have been a nice point somewhere in the middle. So if I have negative 8 over 4, my slope is negative 2. I'm going to use the pair negative 3 paired with 6. All right, let's start dropping it in. Y minus the y value equals the slope, x minus the x value, so minus negative 3, so plus 3. In other words, I'm just going to use the opposite of what I see. So if I see positive 6, this has to be negative. Negative 3, this has to be positive. And now we have it in point slope form. All right, so without the graph this time, so slope of 4. So I know something equals 4x. And we need y. All right, so I need y minus negative 3, so plus 3. And now I get the idea that it's always going to be minus, so or opposite, not minus, so plus 1. Okay, so easy way to check. All right, so we can build up the whole thing and say, all right, I need you to write the equation in point slope form of the line. So first thing is, I got to find out what in the world the slope is. And so let's go with negative 5 minus 5, negative 1 minus 1. So I get negative 10 over negative 2. So I get 5. The slope is 5. Now the question is, which point do you want to use? And it really doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to start with all negative. That way I know my equation is all positive. Or if I want to, I can use the positive, so I know my equation is all negative. Okay, I just got to make sure x goes with x and y goes with y. All right, so time for a quick little check here. All right, start with number 2, and then go back to number 1. We got to find a slope. That's the only thing that makes that more difficult. and then we're ready to try these out. So give it a pause here for a minute, see if you can't do that on your own, and then come on right back. All right, welcome back. So we had y plus 3, 4x plus 1. That takes care of number 2. Number 1, we had to find the slope. So what'd you find? -6 plus 5, 7 plus 2. All right, so we got -1 over 9. So this one looks a little bit tougher, right? And then you have a couple choices here. So I can go y plus 6 equals -1/9, x minus 7, or if I chose to use the other ordered pair, and they're both negative, so I know it's going to be both positive. Okay, so either one will do. So hopefully those worked out. Otherwise, go back and review what's happening with those. All right, so that's point slope. The other thing that I'm going to ask you to do as we work on this is to turn it in the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, because that just means I want you to solve for y, and I know that's a skill that you can do even before you walked into my classroom. Okay, so that's distributive property. So 4x minus 8 equals y plus 4. How do we get rid of the plus 4? Minus 4 minus 4. So final answer, y equals 4x minus 12. Pretty good, yes? Okay, distribute again. 1/3 x minus 6 divided by 3 is 2. All right, so don't get worried about those fractions. How do we get rid of -5? Plus 5. So y equals 1/3 x plus 3. Okay, so we got one more on there. Give that a try, and then obviously the homework down here, we'll start to work on some of that after we check in at class.